The story began with my own experience through depression, anxiety, stress, acute loneliness, and eventually moving to a monastery in India. It was the time when I got to teach the kids at school, and I got a little peek inside their lives. I got curious. So after I left the monastery 2 years later, I began to travel. I wanted to understand what is going on with the kids' well-being. Why are so many kids stressed or living in fear, or in some cases taking the extreme steps? So I did not just visit the schools. I went to public places, met the parents, school teachers, the leaders at schools, and everybody we could meet to understand the inside situation, what is happening with the kids' life at school and beyond. During this time, we reached out to hundreds of schools. Some of them were kind enough to invite us for a workshop or 2-3 day sessions. There was this one particular session with the kids where we sat down for a 1-hour planned session, and it got stretched to 9 p.m. It was a day boarding school. Some of the kids were also living in a hostel, so they skipped their dinner. The power went off and we sat and just spoke. There was no content, there was no planned session, it was just a free flow. It was only to provide the kids a space to express themselves out, and it lasted for more than 4 hours. We were sitting in dark, having discussions, and as the session got over, kids refused to leave. They had so many questions. They all lined up after the session because each one of them, they had a personal question. It's not just about the kids. We also did a lot of sessions and workshops with the teachers as well. And the picture is not pretty there either. We learned the teachers are stressed. They can't draw a line between their personal lives and their lives at school. Some of them cried in person. What about the parents? We met the parents at school, outside the school, in public places, and what we learned was a lot of parents were concerned about their kids' mental well-being, their emotional well-being, but there was something deeper. It's not just about the mental health of kids. So after hundreds of these sessions and traveling for non-stop 3 months, thousands of kilometers, meeting so many leaders at school, this is what we learned. Almost 5 out of 10 kids under the age of 13 were in a romantic relationship. And almost no parent knew about this. And these are not healthy relationships. They can't be healthy at this age because they are not taught on how to build and sustain a relationship. This is not the age either. But no parents were aware. And these were toxic relationships. So most of the questions that the kids asked were about the relationship they were already in. Some of them started at the age of 9, such a tender age. The other things were the dark side of addiction with social media, with other things. So kids were just looking for an escape. So we dig deeper and we found that the escape comes from the fact that they do not have that space, that relationship with their parents, so they could share everything. So they retreated themselves to any crack they could find to express themselves. In this case with us, they started writing me emails and sharing their stories and their toxic relationships, their addiction, and so much. Another thing that we learned from the kids was that most of them were living in fear. And the source of the fear was coming from the expectations the parents had, the expectations the school had, the teachers had, and the expectations the society had of them. And most of it is around pushing the kids and putting them into this competitive race, which is never ending. They are living in a fear that if you come at the number 1 spot, then you are something, but nobody cares about the number 2 spot. Forget about anything else. So putting everything together, we learned that a lot of kids are in relationships, romantic relationships, or some of them had strained relationships with their parents. So the cases of bullying isolation, anything unpleasant that happens at school, they can't share with the parents. Neither with the parents nor with the teachers. So where do they go? Well, in this case, they just found that space with us. They shared everything that they were holding on to for years. Our intent was not just to learn what's happening inside the schools or inside the child's mind, but we wanted to do something to make an impact in their lives. So we reached out to the schools again and we asked them to sustain our work. So the kids, their questions were always about, when are you coming back? Or why don't our teachers talk about this stuff? Or why can't we share such things that we are able to share with you, with our teachers or somebody else? It was clear and evident that the kids were looking for a third space, a space beyond their homes and beyond their schools. So we collected all this data, these stories from the kids and shared this with the schools. And we wanted to make a long-term lasting impact in their lives because clearly the kids were looking for it. But unfortunately, we were not welcomed in any schools, and I'm talking about more than 100 schools where we did the demo workshops and sessions. None of them actually opened their doors. And I'm talking government schools, private schools, day boarding, elite schools, top schools, you name it. And we spoke with the parents as well. And we presented this picture to them. And to our surprise, parents were looking for something like this. And clearly the parents were impressed. The parents wanted to learn more about what's happening inside their kids' minds and in their lives. But we did not have a choice because the schools were not willing to work on these things. Clearly this is something that can't be done online, so we met a roadblock. So after years of persuading the schools and trying to convince them to work with us so we could together make some difference in the kids' lives, we were met with disappointment. So we invested a lot of money, a lot of time, energy, but more importantly, we bonded with the kids, even with a 3-4 hour session. Now I still get these emails, but there was a practical roadblock. So we kind of gave up. And then on one day, I get an email from a 13-year-old girl who I had met in one of the schools we visited. She sent me an email and she said, I remember that evening you spent with us and I can't forget that because that was the first time I got to share what nobody knows about me. I am in a toxic relationship. I cannot study. I cannot share this with my mom and I do not have a choice. While I will be going out of the school next year, I don't know how the picture is going to be like outside the school, in my university. I wish you come back and do something for my friends there. This letter shook me and we got back together, the whole team, and sat down and tried to figure out what can we do because we're not going to give it up. There are thousands and probably millions of kids who can take advantage or who can benefit from our work. So we sat down and we replanned the whole thing, and what we came up with is that third space, a solid space, what we call the Antaha Junior. A third space for kids where they can come and be themselves without expectations. This is not about grades, this is not about mental health, this is about the relationship you as a parent have with your child. This is about helping them with their addictions, with the dark sides of social media, and helping them live a happy and successful life. This message is not for you if grades are the only metric of success to you. You can ignore my message. But if you are a parent who wants the best for a child, not just on paper, but in the real life, this is a call for you. Because 5 to 10 years from now, your child may have a great life on paper. They may have a title, they may have accomplishments, but what they might not have is this relationship with you or with their friends, those memories that they can cherish. Don't believe me? Look at the data. Gen Zs are the most loneliest generation. They are experiencing acute stress. Workplace loneliness is a real thing. So despite the kids putting all their hard work and being pushed into achieving success, it might not just mean anything to them once they actually get that. So if this makes sense to you and you believe that you want to give your child that space, that freedom, that life that you imagine for yourself, then this is the call for you. We are opening up these spaces outside the schools so the kids can be themselves, learn to bond with other people, learn to have great relationships with you. When it comes to your child's life, we need to be together on this. And if this message makes sense to you, we can be unstoppable together. So we need you with us on this. Thank you.